The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the Data Collections Methods webinar. In this webinar today, you're going to hear about data collection methods for tracking, analyzing, and reporting your AFI data. These webinars are intended to be interactive and engaging, and we do want to provide the platform for grantees like yourselves to connect and learn from each other. Throughout this and upcoming webinars, you'll hear from AFI grantees and their partners and have the opportunity to discuss tips, tools, and generate ideas for successfully maintaining your grants. This webinar today will be led by myself, Megan Bellato. I'm a Senior Program Manager at CFED. We'll also have guest speakers, Latori Gear from Community Works Carolina and Renee Smith from Ipateo Cultural Arts Academy Incorporated. You're going to be hearing from our speakers shortly, but first, just a few housekeeping items. You have the choice of dialing in with your phone or listening to the webinar through your computer. To listen to this webinar through your computer, just connect your speakers or a headset for best sound quality and set the audio accordingly on the webinar control panel to the right side of your screen. If you're watching this live and you experience any technical difficulties, please use the menu on the right side of your screen to type in a question. On your screens, there should be a snapshot of the interface. You can also use this box to enter questions for the presenters, and we'll also ask for questions at the end of the presentation. If you're having any trouble, please send an email to ahadley@cfed.org. So please keep in mind that this webinar is being recorded. We've muted all attendees to ensure sound quality. So if you have any questions or issues, go ahead and type those in there into the chat box. We will make a recording and transcript of this presentation available on the IDA Resources website. That address is right there on your screen at a later date. This webinar is going to last approximately an hour, not 90 minutes, but there will be plenty of time for questions and answers. Again, please feel free to type in any questions or comments using the chat box at any time during the presentation. So during this webinar, as I said, you're going to hear tips and tools for developing and delivering a robust, sustainable, and manageable data collection system for your AFI grant. You are going to hear from fellow AFI grantees about their data collection ideas and lessons learned. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions and share ideas for data collection methods. Again, this webinar is intended to provide a free space and platform to connect and learn from other grantees around the country. So we hope you'll keep comments coming and questions going all the way through the chat box throughout the entire presentation, and we'll be collecting and sharing questions and responses throughout and at the end. So there you go. Again, in keeping with our theme, please use that chat box. I think we've said it enough here. But before you share questions or thoughts or anything, we have a few questions for you. We want to talk about what sort of, we want you to sort of share with us kind of what's going on with your AFI project, what your experiences have been with data collection, these types of things. So we're about to hit a series of a few polls. So please pay attention to your screens and let us know where you are with each of these. So the first poll, what is your level of experience with managing an AFI project? Beginner, less than 1 year, intermediate, 2 to 3 years, or advanced, 4 or more years. Please take a moment and go ahead and put your answer into the poll there. All right. Thanks for sharing that information, guys. So it looks like we have a few newbies. About 23% of you have been working on your AFI project for less than a year. About 42% of you are in that intermediate range between 2 and 3 years, and quite a few of you, 35%, advanced 4 or more years. So that's really exciting to see. Thanks so much for answering that question. So the next question we have for you is, what is your role with the AFI project? Please let us know, are you an executive director at your organization? Are you a program coordinator or manager? Are you a data manager or a case manager, or are you something else and you're just really interested in AFI? Let us know by clicking your responses right now. And if there's something else that you want to share with us, again, you can always put that into the chat box too. All right, thank you so much. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like about 45% of you, 46% of you are a program coordinator or manager. So that's great. I love to see that 25% of you are data managers. So I certainly want to hear from you all, your tips, your challenges, what you've experienced. So definitely want to be checking in with you guys. And about 21% of you are something else. And that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, moving on to the next question. Let us know where you are in your AFI grant project lifecycle. So are you in the early phases? Are you still working on project design? Have you already started to recruit and enroll participants? Are you in the process of supporting savings with ongoing savers? Do you have savers that are already making asset purchases, or are you in the process of getting ready to close out your 5-year AFI grant? Just click there in the poll and let us know where you are. All right, we're just waiting on a few more of you to respond. All right, fantastic. It's good to see that nobody is in project design phase, so that is helpful. It looks like about 21% of you are currently recruiting and enrolling participants, which is fantastic. About 18% of you are supporting savers, so not necessarily in recruiting and enrolling and not necessarily all the way at asset purchase, but that's great. And then 61% of you have savers that are currently making asset purchases. So that's really helpful information for us to have and for our speakers to have as we think about questions that you might have in kind of with respect to data tracking and collecting that information. So finally, well, no, not finally, sorry. A couple more questions. We'd love to hear what systems what system or systems are you currently using to collect and track data for your AFI project? There's a whole lot of systems. It could be Excel. You could be, tracking things just by paper files. Hopefully not for your case. But sometimes that's totally fine if your grant is very small. Maybe you're using outcome tracker or Salesforce or something. So go ahead and type in the chat box just so we can kind of get a range of understanding of where folks are. All right, great. We're getting a lot of good responses in. Keep them coming. So far, we're looking at quite a few Excels, which is great. I'm seeing some outcome trackers, ETO, and Excel spreadsheets. So ETO, yeah, definitely see that here. Sometimes SurveyMonkey. Well, that's really interesting. I would love to check in on that and see how you're using that. One group is saying we have a cloud database designed for our organization's student advising program, which integrates some AFI into it, and hoping to move to Outcome Tracker soon. Okay. Detailed Excel spreadsheets, I'm sure, and SurveyMonkey again. Change Machine. All right, that's fantastic. Very, very cool. Okay, great. Keep sharing systems you've used, systems you've tried. That's really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty typical for organizations, at least, you know, depending on the size of your grant and depending where you are in your program design and ramp up, to be using Excel. And in some cases, Excel is exactly what you need. In other cases, there may be a need to sort of move to something more sophisticated. But it's really kind of up to you, sort of understanding the different dynamics and what's possible within your program. So it's great to see that so many of you are using different things, and we'd love to dive a little bit more deeply later on in this webinar into what's working for you and what's not so much. So now we just have one final question, and then we'll get into the content. What is the greatest challenge you face when it comes to data collection? And so we've got a couple poll options here. So little or no capacity to capture data, you know, based on if you given staff capacity, staff time, you know, infrastructure like capacity, whatever that might be. Not having the right systems in place. So what I mean by this is not having the right systems in place to collect and analyze that data, or you do have a system in place, but not enough knowledge about how to use the system in order to collect and analyze the data. I know one group that we've been working with for a long time that is using a system, and they don't know how to get any of the information out of it. They just put it in. So it's not an uncommon challenge. Maybe you're not sure what's appropriate to track, or maybe you're not sure how to analyze the data once it's captured in order to inform your program design. Or maybe your challenge is something else. So if it's something else, please go ahead and write that in the chat box. All right, just waiting on a few more of you. Again, if you don't see the greatest challenge on that list, you can go ahead and type something in the chat box, and that way we'll know kind of where we can address certain things. All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing that information. So it's looking like looks like about 30% of you just don't feel like you have the right systems in place, whatever that may look like in practice. And about 30% of you said there's something else, and we'll go into the chat box. Got a lot of really good comments in there. 7% of you little to no capacity to capture the data, and then 22% of you not sure how to analyze that data to inform program design once you capture it, and then 11% of you did say you're not totally sure what's appropriate to track. So when I'm looking here in the chat box to some of the challenges that you all shared, I'm looking at inconsistent data entry or no data entry entered by different coaches. I think that's a very common challenge that we see. Trying to get that data integrity if you have lots of different people in the system can be a challenge for sure. Looking at sensitivity of accessing personal information, I think that's always a consideration when you're working, you know, with clients, particularly when you're working with clients in finances. Yeah, that sensitivity of personal information is really important. And then I see outcome tracker is not totally transparent in relaying how it's collecting data from where in the database the data point is coming from or how it's calculated. That's interesting. So a lot of folks do have challenges with actually understanding how outcome tracker works. So I think that that's definitely a normal, a pretty common challenge. And then yeah, there's some sort of confusion around what AFI is looking for, sort of the different definitions and kind of what that means. I think that's a common challenge. Challenging to get data out for AFI reports. Yes, those AFI reports. We're not going to talk too much about that because obviously this is more based on sort of the collection and not necessarily the reporting, but those AFI reports are asking for a lot of information, and getting a system together for quickly getting that information out of your system and over to AFI for those reports can be kind of take a little while for folks. Folks are saying that they're using an outdated system that has not grown as the program has grown. Being able to design a report from the database, yes. Not necessarily having the systems in place, but the limitations of the system. So need to use multiple systems sometimes. Oh, yeah. Using multiple systems is a common challenge that we see. Obviously, you guys all have lots of different funders and have to use different systems for different reporting purposes, and that can become a real challenge and a burden for folks. So I think these are all kind of the challenges that we would expect to see. All right. So now I'd like to turn it over to Community Works. Latoya, are you on the phone?
I am.
Fantastic. Welcome. And are we going to go ahead and give? Would you like? Sorry. Did you want to control the slides, or do you want me to control them for you?
You can control them.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I'll be here. Just let me know when you want me to advance.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks so much for allowing me to speak to the group today. My name is Latoya Gear, and I'm with Community Works. I'm the Director of Programs and Operations here. And you can go to the next slide, please. And we are a community development financial institution, so we have several programs and services that we offer. A lot of our programs and services focus around lending. We are a micro lender. We do affordable housing and community loans. We also provide down payment assistance up to $4,000 for first-time home buyers. We have an IDA program, which at one time was one of the largest in the state. I think we had about 180 some odd accounts open at one time. And then we also wrap into that our financial wellness checkups, the one-on-one coaching, the education and training, and then we have a credit union that serves Greenville County that really handles all of the consumer lending, consumer stuff of what we do. We try to focus on integrated service, have a model of integrated service delivery. You can go to the next slide, and you can see how our business strategy is intertwined. We have the CDFI on one side, where we're really involved in lending, and then we have the credit union on the other side that houses our IDA accounts, does all the lending, does the financial literacy workshops, and the one-on-one coaching. And then together, both organizations, our focus is helping to strengthen families, neighborhoods, and communities. You can move to the next slide. And the system that we use is Outcome Tracker. I heard that many of you are currently using Outcome Tracker as well. And for us, it has worked well and served us well. Back in the beginning, we started out using Excel, an Excel spreadsheet as well. We just knew that because we were starting, the program was gaining momentum, and we were starting to see a lot of individuals come through the door and be accepted into the program, that we needed something that was going to be able to help us long term. And we also had other different programs that we were offering. So Outcome Tracker allowed us to put, it's comprehensive. It's pretty much made for IDA. It has a lot of features that allows us to track, savings, where we can go in and enter in individual savings account information that is definitely the requirements of being an AFI program. And then also it's integrated, as I mentioned, all of our other programs. We are able to use this system to be able to really for all of our programs throughout our organization, whether that's lending, you can be able to see if a client has an IDA account and they also have a loan with us, then we're able to kind of see and be able to better case manage that client. The flexibility, it is a database system. We're able to change the things as needed, create forms, surveys. So all of that has been really great for us as far as capturing data and being able to really keep our hands on the clients and track impact over time. Client access over time, the Outcome Tracker has added, access for individuals to have web portal access, as well as now they've just implemented a mobile app for the clients to be able to get in and to access forms, be able to see trainings, and also be able to keep up with their account status as it relates to them savings. Again, we do like to be able to tell the story to all of our funders, and so the system has really allowed us to be able to track credit over time, track savings, and to really show the impact that we're having on the individual's lives, as well as how the program is performing overall, keeping up with, the match portion as well as the non-match portion to know how much money is still out there for us to utilize for our clients. So it's really been a great system for us to use. And then you can take it anywhere. I mean, it's web-based, cloud-based, so it's not just stored on a computer. You can import and export reports, which is very awesome for us to be able to use and manipulate the data to sort all of our data and information. And then the best part about it, and which is worth its weight is in gold, is how the built-in reports have really helped us. So when I'm getting ready to do the progress reports or end of the year data reports, you can go into the special little AFI report section and actually run the report for the different sections, and your data is there, which is very helpful. The first year I tried to do a data report, I spent literally weeks trying to make sure that I was capturing all the information that I needed to put into the reports. But Outcome Tracker has really been very involved in, things that have been going on with the data reports and have adjusted their reports accordingly. You can move to the next slide. Items to consider. Initially, the cost for us to purchase the database was a huge investment for us. It was a huge investment for us, but over time, of course, we don't really know what we would probably do at this point without the system. And then, of course, setting up the system, we had to transfer a lot of our data from those Excel spreadsheets into Outcome Tracker, and then making sure that we were setting up the AFI program, the design part of it throughout the system. And then, of course, with anything, the management of the database, making sure that you have that good data that's going into the system, and so that you're able to pull those numbers and the reports out to be able to use for your organization. And so fortunately for us, we have over time had someone who has been a dedicated resource, who's very connected with our grants and compliance, to be able to monitor the system, be able to create forms, and be able to really pull the data and come up with outcomes, and gives us information about what's going on with the IDA program. So those are the tidbits that I could share about our data collection. I don't know if there are any questions that we have at this point, but if so, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Latoya. And yes, I think I want to open it up to anybody. If you have questions, please go ahead and type those into the chat box. Again, we are going to have some time at the end for more general questions, but right now is a perfect time just to ask any specific questions. Yes, okay, so we've got a couple in here. One is asking if Outcome Tracker is available via the AFI Resource Center. It's not. Outcome Tracker is actually a product of VistaShare. So if you go to VistaShare's website, you'll be able to see Outcome Tracker on there. We do have a question about costs. So are you able to share anything about kind of what those ramp-up costs sort of looked like? Latoya?
I can. I will probably have to get back with you on that because I'm not quite sure what the initial costs were. Right. And then I do think that we may have spread it out or worked something out to spread it out over time.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, keep those questions coming. I just want to, and thank you so much. That was really great. It was an excellent overview. I want to go back and highlight a few of the things that Latoya just shared that I think will be really helpful. So, you know, looking at kind of when you're thinking about what would be a good data collection system for you, whether it's going to be Excel or something sort of more comprehensive like Outcome Tracker, I think these are some really good things to be thinking about as in terms of, you know, is it worth, you know, some of these items to consider, including the initial cost to purchase, the system setup. You know, I'm sure you all know, you know, moving to a new system at an organization takes a lot of work and a lot of planning. And people don't always like to change. You know, you have a system that you're using and it works really well, or it doesn't work well, but at least the one that you know, and getting everybody on board to a new system can be really time consuming. And so that is really important. And then the management of the database, so who's going to do that? I know I heard from some of those challenges, you know, like inconsistent data, different people not putting in the data correctly, these types of things. Those are really critical things to consider when you're thinking about, you know, what kind of database system is important for you. You know, and I think that looking at these items, these these good parts of Outcome Tracker that work really well for CommunityWorks Carolina includes sort of having all of the information in one place. So if you're running multiple, if you have multiple grants, concurrent grants that are going on, if you have, you know, if you're depending on how many asset purchases, if you're doing all three of the options, the housing, education, or a small business, it's nice to have everything in one place, right? And integrated. So if you can, you know, is it important to you to keep your AFI data separate, or is it important to you to integrate it with other programs? If your AFI program is integrated with, say, a workforce development program or a financial coaching program, and you're collecting information about those clients in other places too, is it important to keep it all together, or are they totally separate? So that's something definitely to consider. How flexible do you need your database system to be? Like, do you need it to adapt, or do you just need one thing? And if you just need something static that works for you guys, maybe Excel is the right approach. In terms of client access, you know, do you want your clients to be able to access, to go in, see where they are with their accounts, see, you know, where they are with their savings, you know, how monitor their own progress. If you're already doing that, you know, one-on-one with your clients, if you have sort of a more robust kind of management, like sort of a client management system where you're talking with them every day and they're already getting that information, maybe it's not important that they access, you know, their information via the database. So maybe that's not such a big deal, or maybe you don't think that they will. So maybe you don't want to invest in something that your clients aren't going to use. I think this outcomes-based piece is really important. So, you know, and one of the questions I asked earlier, so not just for the purposes of the collecting the data so that you can report back to funders or to AFI, but also to really understand kind of, are you making an impact, and how does that look, and how can you use that information from that data to sort of tell your story. So I think that's a really important thing to think about. Cloud-based, depending on kind of the size of your organization, if you're just a small group and you're in one place, maybe you don't need a cloud-based. Like, I think that's okay. If you're larger, you have sub-grants, you're a network grantee or something, maybe a cloud-based makes more sense. If you want to be, I think import exporting, being able to pull that data and get it into a different format is, I think, pretty important often. If you want, if you have, again, if you have a smaller grant, maybe you can sort of use Excel and that's fine. But if you have a larger grant or concurrent grants or there's something that's more complicated, how can you manipulate that data to get it to a place where you could read it clearly? And then the fact that Outcome Tracker does have built-in AFI reports to complete the progress and annual data reports, that's, I think a lot of folks would find that to be a huge boon. So yeah, I mean, a lot of folks struggle with kind of making sure that they're getting those reports in the right way and they're doing it in a way that's efficient and doesn't take up, weeks and weeks of time. So, that's definitely something to consider. We have a few questions here, Latoya, so I'm going to read a few out to you. So somebody asked about the built-in PPR reports. Did you find that the PPR reports have been updated in a timely manner and that the changes were accurate and comprehensive? So when they just updated for the new reports, Latoya, did Outcome Tracker was Outcome Tracker on board with that?
The last reporting cycle, is that what we're referring to? The last update of reports?
Yes,
I guess. Okay. So yes, well, we skipped 1 year of annual data, and when we went back in, we didn't have to report. And so when we went back into the system, that's when we saw that there was a new annual report, and we then had to, pull new reports out of Outcome Tracker. Now, there were some glitches, obviously, because of, sometimes the way where we were entering things that were important to us and where we were entering it may not have truly been aligned to where they were pulling data from. So we had to work out those kinks for us to be able to pull and be able to report this last time. We did do that.
Great, that's helpful, and that's really helpful. Another follow-up question related to that is, and maybe Eric, you can elaborate a little bit, what kind of data are you importing into Outcome Tracker?
So we report into Outcome Tracker, as I mentioned before, we are a lender. We're, so we use a system called Down Home Loans. And so as far as we import loan information from one system into our Outcome Tracker system, which is our entire client management system. So like, as I mentioned, if an individual had a loan, an IDA account, or we're receiving some type of financial wellness checkup, whatever type of program, we could see all of that in one place. So that's the type of data we were importing into the system. But we also have the ability to do surveys, as I mentioned. So when we have classes and we're trying to do pre and post tests, we're able to create those surveys to be able to, and it goes directly into the system to be able to capture that data. And then all of our applications, our IDA application, our microloan application, are online on our website. So if you went to our website and clicked on the link and entered and completed an application, it would feed directly into our database system, which allows us not to, the data entry portion, it reduces the data entry portion of what we used to do.
That's great. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. We've got one final question, then we're going to move on to our next speaker. Suzanne Parks is asking just some information about your grants. Are you guys a network project? I believe you are, and she really wants to know more about how this Outcome Tracker and your system works with multiple sites.
We actually managed we've managed multiple IDAs at any given time. We probably managed 3 during any given time for several different groups within the state. And so in doing so, we had to keep up with those multiple projects and how much were available in each bucket, and reporting to those different groups. As well as we created, a car IDA, which was a local IDA that we put together, so we had to create that. And then we had a network of organizations who were helping us to case manage, enroll, recruit clients, and so we gave them access to the outcome tracker system, but we locked it down so that they were only able to see within our system clients that they were helping us to case manage, which meant that we could share notes back and forth. We could, without having to pick up the phone. So it was very convenient to be able to do that.
That's great. I think that really covered a lot of it. Thank you so much. That was really comprehensive and helpful. So, if more questions come in, feel free to type them into the chat box. We've got plenty of time. But now I wanted to turn it over to our next speaker, Renee from Ifiteu. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share with you all a little bit about our IDA process. I want to make sure, can people hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. And
okay.
All of the screen, so you can advance your slides whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. So just a little bit about Ifiteu. We're an arts and cultural organization based started in Flatbush, Brooklyn, and based in Brooklyn. We do work outside of Brooklyn as well, and we do dance theater, visual arts, martial arts, and youth development, rites of passage. And so the program in which we have our IDA is connected to our rites of passage and college persistence program. And so it's a combination of financial education with our partner organization, with our bank, which is our partner organization, Santander, as well as helping students to receive match funds to help them with college expenses. So a little bit about the process and the partnership. I think what we've really learned over the last maybe 3 or 4 years is really around how to really make sure that the partnership that you have with your partnership bank is really beneficial to yourself as well as to the bank. They, of course, really love working with community organizations because it helps them with some of their CRA credits and all of that. But we also want to make sure that there is a way for us to ensure that our young people and their families are understanding and starting to really use savings and banks and their employees as a resource, not after something happens, but as they're planning and as they're thinking about planning for their futures. And so we've been working in partnership with Santander for about 10 years. Currently, they partner with us to provide our financial education classes for both youth and adults on the third weekends of every month. So on Friday evenings, the students get the financial education workshops in their rites of passage classes, and then on Saturdays the bank comes back and they do usually the same topic within the curriculum with the parents. What we found is the last 2 or 3 times that we've done it, that a lot of the parents are starting to come more and more on Saturdays because the students are going home and they're talking about what they're learning in the classroom, and the parents want to really be able to support that learning. So we found that that has been a really a big shift that we've had over the last 2 to 3 years, and really trying to reach out and really to make this partnership really grow with the organization and the young people. Our bank is also starting to, some of the things that we had to start addressing was the fact that a lot of our students are away at school. And so the way in which they were doing their college savings previously may have been coming in, going to the bank, going and seeing a teller and all of that. That really isn't available anymore because they're away at school and their schedules are different. And so what we've been doing is working out with them a way to do this process digitally, and the bank is really working with us to figure out ways that the students can continue to consistently save and do their direct deposits and set that up, and that be also a part of the financial education, because mobile banking is really what young people are doing now, and so we don't want to stop them from saving and keeping that consistency, but we also want them to have the skills of going into the bank and knowing who their bankers are and all of that. since the partnership has started, we have had new branches pop up at Santander, which has also been very helpful for the partnership. Previously, there was one branch downtown Brooklyn, which was very difficult to get to, not a lot of parking spaces, and so many times people would go and get frustrated, but they actually have opened up a couple more branches, and some of them are right in the neighborhoods where our program site school is. They opened one in East Flatbush, which is about 4 blocks away, which works for us because when we need to walk students over and parents over to open up accounts, they're able to do that. They also come and visit us to open up accounts. And there's also one that is on Flatbush Avenue, which is on the other side of Flatbush, where a lot of our families live as well. I just want to talk a little bit about the way in which we actually track our data. And I know that the screen is really, really small, but we use Salesforce, and we've been using Salesforce for a really long time, and a lot of the work that we've done in Salesforce has been customized. So we use it for attendance tracking, we use it to track HR, and so we also built a system for tracking our IDA accounts. And so basically what we've done is we've created a tracking system that allows us to keep track of how much money, a student has in their account when they're saving and depositing, how much money is left in their account after they've done a match and monies have been withdrawn. We also have a section here that is about the IDA demographics. So a lot of this is demographics that are being asked of us when we're filling out our reporting, and just general demographics that we like to keep on our students and our families to see how they're actually shifting from when they first started with their IDA to when they complete college and they're graduating, and what they actually have in place at that time. And so a part of that tracking detail, so you have the initial kind of tracking page, and then the other 2 pages are really around just keeping track of the deposits and keeping track of the withdrawal. So this is something that's monthly inputted into the system. It actually is an upload, so we download the information from the bank statements that we have access to, and then it gets uploaded into the student accounts, and it gives us a record of what's been importing, and if there was any issue with the import. Usually our coordinator is able to let me know, oh, something hasn't gone in, or the account doesn't look right, and we go in and we can manually change it. We also have access to the match request detail. So this detail is really, again, customized for us and us to really be able to assist our young people and assist our staff also in being able to kind of track what's going on with the accounts. So we have areas where we're talking about what amount has been requested, and then the other piece where the students actually have to make the withdrawal before we pay the actual bill that they've asked us to pay. And so this is the way that we kind of keep track of it, and all of this rolls up into that first detail page that you also saw that keeps track of everything that's in the IDA. The other thing that we're able to do with Salesforce is we're able to get reports. And get reports in 1 or 2 different ways. One is reports quarterly. So we're keeping track even when we don't have to do the reports for AFI. We're also just keeping track of what's happening on a monthly basis, any trends that we're seeing, who's actually applying for withdrawals, who's completing their deposits. And so we're able to do 2 main reports. One is the account balances, which is also something that AFI asked us about. And so all of the accounts that are AFI accounts are also, we're able to pull that up in one piece, and we're able to see what kinds of balances are in those accounts and what the total savings is during that time period, as well as we're able to see how much deposits were made during that time period that we're reporting on. And I think that's it.
All right, thank you so much. That was really good. That was a really great overview. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to slide back over here. We did have one specific question that came through, and everybody feel free to go ahead and type in any questions you have for both of these speakers, but particularly for what we just heard. We have one question about, would you explain how the bank account information is uploaded automatically into the database?
So it's not automatic. We have to download the information from the Santander gives us access so that we can actually see all of our IDA accounts, and it downloads into a CSV file, and then the account numbers are matched with the field that's in Salesforce. And so when we upload it, it will then upload to that record that's carrying that. So it is a download and an upload process. So it's not automatic, but it does occur without as much manual inputting as possible.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful. I think that, you know, another thing to consider, you know, as you start to think about kind of what systems you might want to put in place, is how you're getting the account information and keeping track of that for all of your participants in an ongoing way, right? So we always, you know, CFED, when we go out and do our capacity building visits or talking with grantees, we always definitely want to highlight the importance of thinking about how you're collecting that information, seeing if your financial institutional partner can get an electronic file sent over as opposed to, you know, paper copies of the account statements, because then you've got this problem with someone having one of your staff people taking up valuable staff time to manually go in and enter information, and that A, takes up a lot of time, but B, you know, there can be errors, just like human error when you're going in and typing numbers over and over again. There's always the chance that something gets missing. So always a good idea when you're thinking about you know, a data management system, or you're thinking about how you might want to update your program line for things. Thinking about getting those files electronically from the bank is always a great idea. One more question specifically, how big is your IDA program?
So we're currently carrying about 73 or 74 accounts. About 20-something of them are current IDA. So we've had our IDA for long enough that we've had one full set of students go through college, graduate from college, and switch their accounts over. Right now, I want to say it's about 27 students who are currently in college who have IDAs that are eligible for match. And then we carry about 40 or 50 seed accounts. And those are for the younger students that are currently in care of their parents, and they're a part of still the savings program. And then when they get ready to graduate and go to college, it turns over into an IDA account.
Okay, very interesting. That sounds. I love that. I love the way that that's set up. It seems like, you know, it could get really complicated, but it seems like you guys have figured out a system to ensure that you're tracking all of the information, you know, and keeping track of everything. And that's a lot. It's a lot to manage. So I'm glad that you guys have found a system that works well for you. So in general, I think that we've heard from, you know, 2 grantees here who did a great job sort of talking about the systems that they've used, you know, some of the lessons that they've learned delivering this information, and what's been important for them as they identified a data collection method or system, you know, based on kind of what their program is and what their needs are. So, you know, I think whether you choose to use Outcome Tracker or Salesforce or any of these other ones, really the key is to think about what are your challenges with your program, with your data collection, what are the constraints that you're facing, but then also what is it that you need, and start to think a little bit about kind of how those two can connect, and how you can kind of build something out. One more question for Renee is who customized Salesforce for your organization? I think usually that's a relationship that organizations have with Salesforce, but was it a third party, or did you guys do it yourselves?
So we did it ourselves. I actually am the Salesforce customizer person at our organization. But when we moved to Salesforce as an organization, we actually trained a couple of different people to understand how the system worked. And so we knew that we would, over time, begin customizing the way in which we wanted to work in the system, because we tried to kind of keep people out of doing things in Excel and really start looking at how we were managing data across the organization. So we customized it ourselves, and actually it's quite it's easy because it's very intuitive. in the way in which they set it up, but it's really about you thinking about how you want to see the reports on the outcome end, which determines how you put the information in or how you want the data put in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. That's helpful. And then a question for both centers. Would you all share your contact information for those that are interested in keeping up about your work and your ID programs? Is that comfortable with both of you?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No problem. We had a couple of requests from participants for us to share your contact information. Some folks are interested in hearing a little bit more about your programs, your organizations, but also your data collection methods, and we're wondering if they can reach out directly.
Sure.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, you know, we have a couple more minutes. I'm definitely interested in hearing if anybody wants to share a specific challenge that they kind of want to put out there into the world, and we can talk through it, or a lesson that you all have learned, given, you know, we've got a lot of folks on the call who've been, you know, administering AFI programs for a long time now, so many years. So I'm sure that you all, you know, even despite current challenges that you're facing, I'm sure that you've learned some lessons along the way. So feel free to share those, type those into the chat box. We can share them out with the group. Or, you know, if there's a specific system that anybody would like to kind of give a shout out to, we can do that. They clearly had two here for Outcome Tracker and Salesforce, but there's, gosh, countless different types of systems out there. And yeah, so this is a good point. Someone just suggested, I'm just going to slide this slide back here. Someone just suggested that they were hoping to hear information about the Excel spreadsheet that's on the AFI resource website. So that is an option, that is a way you can that's just out of Excel. It's not a program, a standalone program. It's just a kind of a pre-formatted Excel sheet that you can use if you decide to use Excel, and it's got some information there. And then we have somebody else, and I can follow up. We can follow up in the follow-up from this webinar, or I will send everybody a recording, the slides, the contact information. We can also send some links to that, some of the things that are on the AFI Resource Center that could be helpful. So we have one person who did share that they've integrated the required fields for AFI reporting into intake sheets and have been manually inputting the data into Excel. So yeah, I think that's exactly the right choice. If you're using Excel, then go ahead and make sure that the information you're collecting is not only the information that you want to collect for your organization, but the information that's being asked for in the AFI reporting requirements, and that way you can kind of knock that out. You're going ahead and asking those questions. You have it all in one place, so that's a really great best practice to use. And I think that if you have a smaller grant or a sort of a very straightforward program with not a lot of complications or nuances, and that actually could be a totally reasonable way to do things. I think that that's fine. We do have a question. Is anyone else using ATS3? So that's kind of an older data collection system. If anyone else is using that system, can you go ahead and let us know and type it into the chat box? We have somebody who's curious. All right, we do have a few folks that are using it. Do you want to share, Brittany, would you like to share if you want to share into the chat box any of your challenges or learnings? Is it a system that you guys are enjoying using? All right, well, we can definitely follow up on all of that. We've got a couple folks typing things into the box now. So overall, I think this was great. Really appreciated you all attending, your engagement, your comments, your questions. Thank you so much, Latoria and Renee, for taking the time to share kind of your experiences with your systems. As I said in the follow-up from this, we're going to send out to all of you recording of the webinar and the slides, some additional resources that you might be able to find helpful. If you do have follow-up questions, feel free to reach back out to us. We're happy to come back and yes, we have one final question here. Is anyone using ETO? I will just say yes, lots and lots of folks are using ETO out in the world. So, and you can reach out to us directly and we can put you in touch with some folks for that. But thanks again. We have lots of upcoming events that are going to be happening. We'll be holding lots of webinars in the next couple of months on different topics. So please do check out the calendar on the IDA Resources website, and you can see upcoming topics, anything that might be useful for you all. If you're having specific problems or challenges with your managing your AFI grants or with your program, go ahead and reach out to the help desk with IDA Resources or call that number, and we can see how we can kind of support you and your program and help you to optimize this grant. Any final questions or comments that anyone is just dying to get out? All right. Well, thanks once again. We have a few things I see that we haven't answered in the chat box. We're going to reach out to you directly to answer those questions. But otherwise, thanks again for your attendance and have a fantastic day.